right, very good morning and welcome to this edition of Morning Cafe. Well, Cape Media kwanza tuko na a new boss.
Oh yes.
Bwana Mwenda Njoka. So mujue tuko na mdosi. Karibu sana Bwana Mwenda Njoka to Cape Media on behalf of the entire Morning Cafe crew.
Oh yes. Karibu.
Well,
tumuuliza pia how anakunywanga coffee.
I'm sure he's watching the show right now. Bwana Mwenda Njoka, how hot is a coffee where you are? And to all Kenyans, how hot is a coffee where you are? Karibu sana, my name is Freddie Ndimuli.
And I'm used to Stanley Nyarengeti. It's a wonderful Wednesday, friend. Today is World and Child Labor Day. We'll be discussing that and actually just wanting to know, what does child labor mean to you? Okay. You know, what does child labor mean to you? Talk to us. We'll be having that conversation later on. And just even as if you have a child, you know, there's some mundane things that we do. We actually don't know it is child labor. So we'll be separating nurturing a child versus child labor. Kuna ile unaambiwa wewe amka tunaenda shamba.
Ni child labor.
Hiyo ni child labor.
Hata hii tumekufanya kuja asubuhi hapa ni child labor. All right. A quick look at the headlines. There's a lot of drama happening in this country. I think. Oh yeah, do you have some of those photos? But a lot of drama happening with the deputy president, with the retired president, so much. And yes, we do have that picture of the deputy president boarding a commercial flight.
Ile one man, one bag.
Yes, at the airport to Mombasa. And, and one wonders, because honestly, we've seen him move before, and we see how many aides he has around him. Why did he need to carry the suitcase by himself? And have people taking the pictures. But anyway, I think he must have been very good at drama festivals back in high school. But yeah, interesting times. Oh yeah. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the dailies. We'll be discussing this and a lot more. We can start even with the Taifa Leo.
With the Taifa Leo.
Tuliza boli. Rais aripotiwa kuwasiliana na mtangulizi wake na kubuni kamati kuhakikisha matakwa yake yametimizwa. There was too much drama. I think the president decided, let me just cool it down.
Let me relax.
Now,
and actually,
deputy,
coming from both sides,
yes,
and the same mountain,
he just felt apana. Let me just deal with one. Huyo mwingine anaweza panda ndege.
Tuangalie Business Daily. Murkomen reveals plan to increase fuel levy by Gethys 39%.
Now the fuel levy has been at 18%, and now he wants it to increase by 7 shillings to 25 shillings now.
Oh yes.
Per litre.
On the Star, county's 400 billion cash shillings, they say Mount Kenya big winner. That is on the front page of the Star. They also give you the collage of photos. Rigathi flies commercial to Mombasa Forum. He'll be in Mombasa today. This is what had Kenyans with a buzz. You can see him there. Kishkileyo bag. I'm really curious how many clothes were fitting into that and how many of his personal belongings go your bag. Akienda Mombasa, Fred. But then as he is escorted inside and akitulia pale, that is the front page of the Star. On to People Daily. Ruto reaches out to Uhuru in office fight, and they have the photo there of President William Ruto as well as former President Uhuru Kenyatta. That is on People Daily. Let's take a look at other dailies before we get into regional matters. Can take a look at the Standard. They say inside Ruto Uhuru surprise phone call. You need the Standard. Tuangalie Daily Nation kabla tuvuke regional matters.
Ruto Uhuru seek to end Pax row. Yes, that's a big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. I think it's the biggest discussion, the fact that for the first time we have the president and his predecessor talking, which is a good sign. But we'll be looking at this and a lot more. Of course, the biggest discussion going on is about a finance bill and the fact that the pump prices could rise again. 7 shillings per litre, that's going to make a huge difference.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The fact that it's actually some days to the 14th of this month.
All right.
Let's take a look at regional matters now, and we start with Uganda.
Yes, they're still following up on corruption issues in Parliament, how detectives raided detained MPs' homes. That's a picture of one of the homes, a palatial home in Kampala, being raided by police. It's a picture down there on the front page of the Daily Monitor. But the main story, UN experts link Uganda Mwenda to M23 rebels. Yes, you know what's happening between Uganda, DRC and Rwanda. There's a lot of complaints on that side of the border by DRC about Uganda's and Rwanda's involvement with the rebels from that area. Yes, that's a big story on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Still in Uganda,
the new vision why police searched MPs' homes, the big conversation happening there as well. Let's take a look at Tanzania kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi.
Ukimya wa polisi wazusha gumzo. Ni habari iliyopewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Kwingineko, Samia, najua kelele zitakuja, nataka mageuzi ya mashirika. Focus on a lot of what's happening within Tanzania, but on the top strip, stories that probably could matter to Kenyans as well. Nauli ya treni SGR za waibua wenye mabasi. So I think SGR is going to offer really affordable rates in fares, and most bus operators are complaining more or less what happened in Kenya, but then SGR later increased their fares by doubling it. Now no one wants to use it. A mention of the Malawian vice president who perished in a helicopter crash, in a plane crash rather. Ndege ilivyokatisha maisha ya makamu wa rais na wasaidizi 9 on the front page of Mwananchi.
Still in Tanzania, on the front page of The Citizen, approved SGR fares draw mixed views, and now they're having what was on the top scroll of Gazeti la Mwananchi plastered on, that's a big story.
Yes.
And they're giving you those fares.
Ukitoka Dar es Salaam kwenda Dodoma ni 31,000 pekee, usijali.
Shilingi za
pesa
Tanzania.
za Tanzania, pesa za Tanzania. Kutoka Dar kwenda Makutupora, shilingi 37,000. Hiyo utafika mbali.
Unatoa pesa.
Utafika Dubai na hizo pesa.
All right, let's take a look at other dailies now. In Malawi. So the Daily Times, the front page, they say nation in mourning. SKC others bodies welcomed with tears. It's a funeral arrangements committee set up.
And an image of the widow was left behind. Apparently she was on the flight manifest. She was to be part of the journey with her husband, but something happened, she did not make it, and then as fate would have it, her husband did not make it either. That's the front page of the Daily Times in Malawi.
They also say Chakwera declares 21 days of mourning. Chakwera is the president of Malawi. Final paper, the New Times. Today they're not really talking about the election preparedness, which is going to be happening next month, but then they make a mention of...
this is Rwanda.
This is Rwanda. They say Rwanda Revenue Authority calls on taxpayers to declare first quarterly prepayment tax before June as June 28th deadline.
Okay.
Yes. That, among others, is what is happening in that country.
And of course, we'll be focusing on most of the local dailies later on with my panelists, so do stand by for that. A quick look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. And the roads are looking not so bad for a Wednesday morning as it loads. Yes. You can see it's generally looking green from all direction, all the major tributaries into town. Mombasa Road, Thika Road, Kiambu Road, Langata Road, all of them. But probably if we could expand it and take a look at Jogoo Road, which is usually our biggest focus. A lot of people live on that road or use it towards town. And nothing much to report about. Today, everything looking good. Makadara kama kawaida, City Stadium roundabout kama kawaida, na pale Pangani, of course. It's building up slowly. So yes, the traffic situation is looking not so bad this morning as at 13 minutes past 6 o'clock.
All right, let's take a look at the weather. And now the focus really is going to be how the cold season is nearing. And we start with Kimende. Tuone how you'd be shocked really.
Wait. 9 degrees Celsius.
Ushaifungua mlango ya fridge.
Hiyo siwezi toka kwa nyumba.
Umefungua mlango ya fridge, ile hewa ya fridge ikakupiga. This is how
I'm thinking that part of Kimende you can't even drive through right now.
It's
because
so
of the foggy.
Yeah,
it's very foggy. Yes.
9 degrees Celsius. But hey, it promises to get hot into the day. As high as 16 degrees Celsius.
Okay,
then actually 18, but then
that's the hottest it will get.
Ikifika 18, itakuwa cool
down. Hapo watu wana sweat.
Yes, by
18 degrees in Kimende, you're sweating.
That is how Kimende is looking like. From Kimende, let me take you to Thika. In case you're thinking about traveling to Thika or you're living in Thika, relative kind of weather for today. Sun intervals, the highest temperatures you'd be getting is as 24. Right now, it's 14 degrees Celsius if you're working around Thika. And finally, in Nairobi, before we take a look at other matters, the same as Thika is the same as Nairobi. 13 the highest for today, around 23 degrees Celsius. From the weather, let's take a look at the diary, what to expect in our subsequent bulletins. First off, I told you today is End Child Labor Day, so it is themed, Let's Act on Our Commitments and Child Labor Day. The day is commemorated annually to raise awareness about the plight of child laborers and promote efforts to eliminate child labor. That is on the first page. On the second, today's Kenya Meat Expo. The third edition of this year's Meat Expo will be happening from today all the way to the 14th at KICC. So this event aims to bring together various meat stakeholders to network and interact with consumers. We'll be also breaking it down on the government stakeholders will be there as well as other stakeholders. And still happening in KICC, Kenya will be playing host to the 9th edition of the Agritech Africa International Exhibition and Conference on Agriculture Technology, happening in KICC from today as well as to the 14th. We also do expect some government stakeholders and government leaders, specifically in the Ministry of Agriculture. In quotes, two interesting events happening today. So Fred, I know you remember Humphrey Obanda, who's the former IEBC CEO, as well as now the predecessor, former IEEC CEO, and two others who they will be appearing today at the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court for hearing of a case where they are charged with allegations to impropriety in purchase of ballot papers for the general and some by-elections. Remember, it was a chicken gate scandal. You remember that? Najua ulikava maneno.
Tulikuwa hapo.
Yes, me bado hata.
Unaisoma kama history.
Something else matters corruption as well. Former Samburu Governor Moses Leonard Kulala and 13 others will be appearing before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court for mention of a case where they are charged with a conspiracy to commit an offense of corruption, abuse of office, and conflict of interest. That, among others, coming up in our subsequent bulletins. Stick around for that. Right now, though, today in history.
On this day, former U.S. President Barack Obama unveiled a $73 million aid package to help poverty-stricken Zimbabwe after meeting with the country's then Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai at the White House.
All right, let's now take a look at the dailies this morning. All right, inside Ruto Uhuru surprise phone call. That's a big discussion this morning. Wale wa jamaa waliongea finally. Say the money card. President William Ruto has formed a team to resolve the dispute raised by his predecessor. A day after it was revealed money set aside for the retirement package had not been disbursed. Already State House has held its first meeting to resolve the wars. Yes. And among the talks, the president has constituted a team. Phone conversation was followed by a visit by Uhuru's senior staff to State House yesterday. Hey, it must have been a very busy day. And Ruto is said to have briefed the cabinet, saying the issues had been resolved. That's a big story on the front page of the Standard. The other story given prominence on the front page, Treasury tax dilemma as IMF comes calling. Now, days to the reading of the budget and debate of the finance bill, the International Monetary Fund has loaded the documents, saying they will help raise more revenue. But Kenyans from all walks of life want MPs to amend contentious clauses before passing it. But now kama IMF wamesema wameweka kidole, mutaumia, I tell you.
But then some days ago,
that is a World Bank. This is the IMF.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Now, on the front page, the top strip, appeal court deals intern teachers yet another blow. And yes, a mention of what's happening in Malawi. Malawi mourns VP killed in crash. In business, Coopbank pays 8.8 billion shillings in dividends for shareholders. Kama uko pale, pesa inaingia. Na in sports, Harambee get point from elephants. And that, to be honest, I think for the Harambee Stars to hold the elephants of Ivory Coast is something. Let's just clap for them. Coach Virat Ru's missed chance against star-studded elephants. It's on the back page of the Standard.
The kind of predictions that are going out here, people saying, Trachapwa 3-1.
The lads held their own. That's the Standard this morning.
On the front page of the Daily Nation, that conversation on Ruto as well as Uhuru. They say Ruto Uhuru seek to end Pax row. Matters climbed down. President William Ruto yesterday called his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, and a bid to stop the escalation of a standoff over the former president's budgetary allocation, official office, staffing and security requirements. After the phone call, Head of Public Service Felix Kuskei was directed to set up a team to address the grievances. More is on page 4. On the bottom, a conversation that other dailies don't really have. They say the return of regional politics. And pictured there, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, as well as Kilifi North MP Owen Baya. Pardon me, Owen Baya, and what they're saying was on page 5. On the right scroll, they say motorists will be forced to dig deep into their pockets to fuel their vehicles should lawmakers approve a proposal to increase the fuel levy from 18 shillings to 25 shillings per litre. That is according to so Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen wants the Finance and National Planning Committee to increase the tax by 7 shillings per litre. It was last reviewed in July 2016. According to Murkomen, the expected revenue will amount to 115 billion Kenya shillings. More is on page 10. And wacha tutaona how that will be. Health matters on the top scroll. Something that was happening yesterday. They say low medical oxygen supply blamed for increase in public hospital deaths. Elsewhere, more students apply to join private universities. They say number rises to 18,557 from 9,622 last year. Some probably positive news even for the private sector. And more is focused on the back page. Lawmakers question CUE over 277,000. CUE is the Commission for University Education. Over 277,000 first-year slots in universities. And they say documents show that Kisii University has the highest number of vacancies, followed by Kenyatta University. Okay. In sports news, matters 10 is something that is happening. The Billie Jean King Cup Africa Group 3 tourney in Nairobi. And they say Kenya clash with Burundi today for finals. It is going to be one of the biggest moments for Angelo Kutoi. Yes. So she's using this opportunity to accumulate points so that she can be ranked top 400, so that she can get a slot to play in the Paris 2024 Olympics as well. That in a nutshell is Daily Nation. You can take a look at
Tuangazie Taifa Leo.
Yes.
Habari kuu pale, tuliza boli. Rais aripotiwa kuwasiliana na mtangulizi wake na kubuni kamati kuhakikisha matakwa yake yametimizwa. Ni habari inayoendelea kupewa kipaumbele baada ya kuhofia uasi. And I think hawa ndio wamesema story yenyewe. Baada ya kuhofia uasi unaoweza kutokea Mlima Kenya kufuatia malalamishi ya naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua na rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta dhidi ya utawala wake, Rais William Ruto amechukua hatua za kutuliza hali. Alizungumza na mtangulizi wake, lakini mdogo wake anabeba box na kupanda ndege. Vidokezo zaidi, karo walimu watimua wanafunzi. Kwingineko, Mogokani dawa ya kulevya. Viongozi wa kijamii wanasema mmea huo maarufu una kemikali za kulevya. Na kwingineko, Malawi yaomboleza naibu wa rais. Pale juu, wauzaji mitumba washtaki serikali Wafanyabiashara hao katika soko la Gikomba wameishtaki serikali ya kaunti ya Nairobi kwa kubomoa vibanda vyao. Na kwenye spoti, Nigeria yazidi kudorora, Super Eagles yaendelea kukabiliwa na hali ngumu mechini. Hilo gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Taifa Leo, you can take a look at the Star. And they say counties 400 billion Kenya shillings, Mount Kenya big winner. Revelations a slap in the face for Gachagua, those claiming Mount Kenya short-changed. Matters division of revenue. Northeastern receives the second largest share of the allocation. I know you'll be having this conversation. The state of the nation comes to division of revenue. But then the collage of photos there, Rigathi flies commercial to Mombasa Forum. But other news focused are on the bottom scroll. Elephants address each other by name. Wow, okay. That's according to a study. It's the evolution of language. That's now a very interesting story to read on. In matters disbursement, how Treasury ruins our project plans. That is according to governors. And in health, Kenya rolls out plan to end HIV teen pregnancy by 2027. On the top scroll, into education matters, resource allocation, varsity agency on the spot of a student's placement was also focused on the back page of Daily Nation. That is as far as the front page of the Star goes. Take a look at probably Business Daily.
All right. On the Business Daily, it's about the fuel levy. Murkomen reveals plan to increase fuel levy by 39%. Review to generate 115 billion shillings annually, increase to be the latest hit for motorists. Remember, there's already the motor vehicle tax, and now the fuel levy. Interesting. So motorists will pay more for petrol if Parliament approves a proposal by the Transport Ministry to increase the fuel levy from 18 to 25 shillings a litre to raise cash for road maintenance. The other story on the front page, why Kenya lowered appetite for IMF debt. Well, Kenya apparently has cut back on its planned borrowing from the IMF by 7.2% to 465.4 billion shillings after partial repayment of the debut Eurobond that unnerved global investors. More stories on the ticker. Egerton's medical training cost dwarfs top varsities. Banks see rising loan defaults on high interest rates. And matters coffee. Coffee sector reforms boost prices but stall sales and exports. That's a Business Daily this morning.
Let's take a look at now People Daily. Before we get into the cartoons, Ruto reaches out to Uhuru in office fight. And they say matters ceasefire after retired president's complaint about neglect of his status by the Kenya Kwanza administration. His successor places a call to him and sets up team to address his grievances. And there's a quote there by Hussein Mohammed. This morning, President William Ruto had a conversation with his predecessor in office. I think this was now last morning. In office, the fourth president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, regarding concerns about facilitating the function of the retired president. Other conversations on revenue allocation, how counties will share 400 billion cash shillings revenue. Into business news, Insurance Regulatory Authority revokes closure of direct line assurance. And at the bottom, children and teens not doing enough physical activity. That is according to World Health Organization. In generation alpha sasa. Wako tu pale kwa simu. And I think this coming after yesterday's International Day of Play, where you advised and then mcheze. But apparently children are not even playing.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And the very top scroll, Education Matters, NAT calls for crisis meeting over sacked intern teachers. That is on the front page of People Daily. We'll be getting back to People Daily on page 10 for the cartoons. Speaking of cartoons, Fred?
Yes, we take a look at the cartoon on page 13 of the Daily Nation. A focus still on the retired president's benefits. We do have the retired, a cartoon, an image of the retired president walking away, saying, bye, I'm retired. But then again, the next frame, I was just a phone call away now, the current president says. Meanwhile, the government spokesman appears to be asking the retired president to keep quiet. That's a cartoon on the Daily Nation. On the Standard, page 12, Harry is back.
Harry is back.
Of course, he's not talking about what's happening in Kenya. He has a focus usually on international stories. So still on what's happening in the Middle East. And we do have a family there with fighter jets aiming their missiles at this family. And the commentator says, as a world, we are keenly observing the events and taking notes. Don't lose hope. Yes, the focus there on what's happening in the Middle East.
On back to Kenyan matters, Stano's take on People Daily, page 10. A gentleman sitting on top of a seat, and this seat is on top of a fire. And he says the mountain is on fire. This is the story of Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Gashagwa. Stano went biblical today. There's someone else who's trying to cool off this fire, but probably his efforts is actually even making the fire to...
He's fanning the fire.
He's fanning the fire. Yeah.
All right, those are the cartoons this morning. Now, in a short while, we'll be in studio with my panelists on State of the Nation, discussing all this, including the retired president's benefits, and a lot more stories which have been given prominence on the dailies today. Ekuru Aukot, party leader, Third Way Alliance and constitutional lawyer, will be in studio, joined by Joyce Wamahio, economic and political analyst. And we'll be having another panelist joining us via video link, Joe Mutambu, former MP Mwingi Central, and Pamela Odhiambo, former women representative, Migori County. Do stand by for that conversation, of which you can be part of as well through our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. Of course, you can always tag me on X. My handle is at Fred Indimuli.
At Nyerungita_. Remember, at around 8 a.m. we discuss End Child Labor Day. What do you understand about child labor? That's the question of the day for you. Start talking to us on the same. Have you actually ever experienced that? Or even as a parent, do you understand that? We'll be having that conversation with Judith Ngerechu. She is the chair of a Girl Power movement, as well as Peter Mweke. He is a child activist. Stick around for that. But Friday, it is Wednesday, Testy Wednesday, coming up at the tail end of the show. Today we're having a very kind of a local meal. Ugali pale, some malenge na saga.
Pika ugali na malenge. Ile mambo utatuonyesha ita.
Lazima tuende local vizuri. Ndio watu wasiseme wao tunapika very fancy food na wazipika. Stick around for that conversation around 9 a.m. to kufunza some culinary skills. Meanwhile, though, we're taking a short break. We'll be right back.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni Ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of...
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that, inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Usiogope.
Those bad
As long
men.
as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic. When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures. It's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally.
Very interesting headlines today, very interesting conversations coming up. We're privileged to have in studio Joyce Wamahio, economic and political analyst. It's always a pleasure to have you in studio.
Thank you, Demori. Allow me to say hey this morning.
Yes.
Cape Media has a new CEO.
Yes, we do.
We expect a good leadership from the leadership.
Oh, yes.
And welcome to this place.
Yes, asante sana for that acknowledgement. And also joining us in studio, Ekuru Okot, party leader, Third Way Alliance, and also a constitutional lawyer.
Thanks, Fred, and thanks for having me. It's been a while since I came to TV 47.
It's good for us to get to see or hear your perspectives about what's happening in the country.
Right.
Joining us via video link, we have Pamela Odhiambo, former woman representative Migori County. Good morning, Pamela. Karibu sana to TV 47.
Good morning, Indimuri. It's been a pleasure to join you from the countryside.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. So, of course, the biggest discussion on all dailies today has to do with the debate over the retired president's retirement package. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto Uhuru seek to end Pax row. And on the Standard, inside Ruto Uhuru surprise phone call. Well, the fact that they actually finally talked or had a conversation is interesting by itself. On the front page of Taifa Leo, Tuliza Boli. Rais aripotiwa kuwasiliana na mtangulizi wake na kubuni kamati kuhakikisha matakwa yake yametimizwa. Whether or not that needed a committee. Also on the People Daily front page, Ruto reaches out to Uhuru in office fight. Let's start from there, Joyce. Yes. Many people would say this is a matter of law. There's legislation to govern this kind of conversation. Why are we having it on the front pages? Why does it have to get to this point?
I find it embarrassing, and for all purposes, having the major headlines, two dailies discussing about salary.
Actually, four
actually, yes. Discussing about very petty issues of the salary. We have institutions that need to manage this kind of information. Of course, the office of any retired president, with a budget of 503 million. Again, it's way high. It's way high. Translating to about to something not friendly. So For Ruto and Uhuru to pick calls and discuss about their pay is embarrassing.
It's a positive move that the two gentlemen finally had a conversation. The last time we were told that they spoke was actually 3 years ago, I think, just around the election time.
I think people need to learn to coexist with each other. Pay is not with the studying. For it to come to this level, I think it's wrong for the two readers. This is the fourth and the fifth. We need to set very good precedents, because we have institutions that must handle this information. On event that there's some fallout between the two offices, we have the head of communication in those departments that can handle this. It also shows that for 2 years, again, the office of the Kenya Kwanza leadership have not been friendly to the fourth president. And again, I believe even my brother Okuru will agree with me that these are periodic offices, and even the fifth will still leave office. And I don't think the fifth would want the same. I don't think he would draft him to be driven the same rein. So treat your neighbor with some humane, because you don't expect the same to be duplicated to you.
Yes, but now because over the past 2-3 days we've had debate on exactly what the parks entail, how many cars, how many security guards, which office the president uses, how much money he gets. And Kenyans are wondering, are we going overboard in trying to ensure that the retired president is comfortable as well? It is at a time when we are in dire straits, looking at even the kind of budget we are looking at. 500 billion shillings could sound like a bit too much, but now quote.
You know, for me, I look at it from a general perspective that if you look at governments in Kenya historically, they've been about plunder. If you're in government, you enrich yourself unjustly and unfairly at the expense of the general populace. So we shouldn't be surprised that when people who are in government or been in government still want, you know, to really benefit from the public coffers. So the largesse in government we are seeing, it's not even with Uhuru, you know, and maybe the question we should be asking ourselves, Fred, is what is the value addition of a retired president vis-a-vis what we are compensating him for? You know, in fact, unlike, for example, ex-president in other parts of the world, and maybe I'll pick the example of the United States of America, you will see a sitting president of the United States of America actually even having an occasional meeting with ex-presidents, especially on matters national or matters global. In Kenya, we don't. In fact, the moment somebody leaves office, enmity kicks in. And of course, now Kenyans should be able to say, you know, we are always being treated to lies. These political marriages of convenience are no longer useful to Kenyans. It's like what my Swahili friends will call nikaya mkeka, especially during the month of Ramadan. You know, one night stands cannot be a marriage. You know, so when people honestly, you know, just come conveniently without any objective, you know, it's a complete lie to the people. But having said that, Fred, I also read a lot of lazy journalism, almost childish talk, and a lot of trivia, because if you look at some of the problems that Kenyans are struggling with right now, when you talk about the state of the nation, just go out there and do a public survey. What is the common Kenya actually struggling with? Common Kenya is struggling with basics, being able to put food on the table, over-taxation by this regime, against promises of 2022. This is the conversation we should be having in this country. How do we improve the economy of this country? How is the borrowing, you know, today affecting us? For some of us who are now maybe on our 5th floors, now we're beginning to think, you know, to live half a century is actually a blessing. What about our children and their children? And that is the conversation we should be having today, that how are we treating Kenyans? For example, there is a raging debate, a very quiet one, about how Kenyans are being mistreated by foreign countries in terms of visa application. This is a debate we should be having about how do we restore respectability of Kenya, the sovereignty of this country. You know, we are talking about sending our police services or our troops to fight rebels in Yemen. We're talking about sending police to Haiti. You know, when we have serious problems, we have schools not open in Baringo, northern Kenya. So I find this being misplaced. But before I finish, let me go to the law. And you are very right. we have the Retirement Benefits Act for president, deputy president, former prime minister, and all that. You know, that should really guide or govern how we treat our ex-president. But of course, we must also now speak about the largesse of these offices. What is the value for them? And having said that, you know, Ndemuli, the reason that now we are being told, oh, these two guys have not been talking together, you know, Ruto and Uhuru, it's also because if you look at the philosophy behind the Retirement Benefits Act, it means that you have to be non-partisan on matters politics.
After leaving office.
After leaving office. Uhuru is an active member of Azimio. And of course, it's offending the sitting president and the sitting administration. Just like the same way when Kibaki and Raila retired with Kalonzo during the coalition government, they actually were benefiting from the Retirement Benefits Act. But the moment they became so active, almost disruptive politically of the current administration, of course, these
questions will be asked.
These are also human beings. They will say, okay, we cannot be feeding the serpent that will soon hit on me.
Okay, and let's allow our other panelists to chime in on this. I'm told we also have Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central, joining us via video link. Bwana Joe Mutambo, good morning. Karibu sana to TV47.
Good morning, Mwoli. It's been a while since I saw you.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice.
Much to my good friend, Ekoro Kot, who happens to come to be my friend on another forum.
Okay.
But having said that, Eddie, if you allow me first, I'm saddened because from Kitui County, Mwingi, in particular where I come from, we lost an icon, educationist, Professor Kamuti passed on. Unfortunately, I was not been able to visit them because I'm out of the country. I'm in neighboring Uganda. That's why I'm joining you through the link. But may his soul rest in peace. It is very interesting what you're discussing this morning because to me, I find it petty. I'll call it petty. The discussion of ex-president or former president's package is not something to be discussed in public. The act is there, the law is there, there's no vacuum, and it is so shameful for other countries to be listening to our own, for lack of a better word, for stupid things, because we respect the entire president.
Choice of words.
Yes. The retired presidents, let me call them, although we have only one existing now. And I'm sure very soon we will have another. Very soon, and I mean soon, we'll have another retiring president.
Don't you think that if we have two of them together, two retired presidents, it would be too costly for Kenyans, given the kind of revelations that have been made about what the ex-president or the retired president should receive?
That is not something we can discuss now. That could have been discussed when the act was being passed. We could have envisaged that we will have 1 or 2 or 3 presidents. But you know, people thought 10 years are too long. When a president retires, 10 years for the other one to either come out is too long. But I'm seeing a scenario where these 10 years for the current one will not be achieved. And if our court and Mutambo and the rest wake up and tell Kenyans what we need to do, because I don't think Kenyans will love ourselves. If Kenyans wake up today and decide enough is enough, I can tell you we'll have 2 former presidents tomorrow.
Wow. Okay.
The problem we are having is that we have left everything to one man, Raila Amolo Odinga. And that is what people believe. That's the only man who can call holiday when there is none.
Okay.
If Kenyans agree to listen to a court, if Kenyans agree to listen to themselves, if Kenyans wake up and say, this is too much and we cannot take it more, I guarantee you, and I want to say this without fear of any contradiction, tomorrow, this country would go to Tunisia way. Tomorrow, this country could go North Sudanese way.
And we are hoping
because
we won't get there, Bwana Mutambu. But
it will get there because what is happening and what is on the table today, what is being discussed to Parliament today, is a clear provocation to Kenyans.
Okay, we'll get to that discussion, Bwana Mutambu. I just wanted to bring in Pamela Odhiambo on this issue of presidential packs or retired president's packs so that we can do away with that conversation so that we can now delve into the finance plan and the budget. Pamela, what do you think about this debate going on? It's on 4 of our dailies, meaning everyone is talking about it.
Thank you very much, Indimuli and colleagues who have gone ahead of me. I think from the look of things, Fred, allow me to add my feeling of disappointment to what you are calling a debate, because according to me, I don't think there is any need for any debate about this. And it's unfortunate that we as Kenyans, actually picking it from my friend Mutambu and putting it another way, we have always woken up to shocking things, and we want to express our shock emotionally and with a lot of force, and then 2-3 days later, we forget that we were shocked yesterday. I think this is a culture that we first, as the people of Kenya, need to change. I said it is disappointing because already colleagues have stated there are guidelines which were already established many years ago, and the government of the day or whoever is in charge of remunerations for government officers only needed to do what is necessary, and the president, the former president's package would be dry at home. Having said that, it is important that from what has happened, why these all newspapers are carrying this issue, it's because it's become a point of concern. 2 issues. One, as one already mentioned, when somebody retires and leaves an office, there isn't a need to be enmity between that person who is leaving and the one who is coming in. In any case, there is supposed to be a smooth transfer of that office, which I thought we saw as Kenyans. And so one wonders, why haven't these 2 gentlemen talking? Because I believe even as we sit here today, the former president Uhuru Kenyatta is still a Kenyan and a citizen of this country. Therefore, his president is actually President William Samoei Ruto. And that's a fact. So whether they had any friendships or not, I think their relationship should have gone on as a president-citizen kind of thing. And also the incumbent former, those questions like, where did you used to keep the cup for the tea here in case you woke up and you didn't see it straight away? Those are normal things that should have gone on. And that's why we are saying it's a pity that we are even talking about this. And then the news, to me, the president picking up his phone to call the former president, to me, it is not news. It shouldn't be news to Kenyans. And I think going forward, we should encourage all government office holders to be able to know that their term would come to an end and stop maybe treating these offices like their personal homes. But even in your personal home, if somebody else has to come in, I think all you need to do is to welcome them and foster some working relationship that can carry both of you forward. And where I say Kenyans, we ought to wake up, when some of these packages were being formulated, I remember somebody saying that Kenyans, we ought to be aware that now we have come from an era where presidents would rule and rule and rule until they die on the throne. So that meant that there was spacing, like when the senior President Kenyatta ruled, he took all the time that he could take and died when he was incumbent. Then President Moi took over and he ruled for all those years. before we thought there would be another president. But since 2010, when it was clearly stated that each president can only take 10 years, we ought to have been prepared and foresaw that that package would be too high for 2, 3, 4 former presidents in the country. And that is a conversation that may need to go on constitutionally to either review that package or put it at a level where it is manageable. Otherwise, I don't think it should be a real discussion that is occupying all our time.
Talking of relationships and government legis, there's one paper that has gone, I think it's a Star. On the front page of the Star, it has a very interesting photo of the deputy president carrying his suitcase, traveling commercial to Mombasa. These are things people talk about. It looks odd for the deputy president to be doing this, but what is so wrong with the deputy president flying commercial and even carrying his luggage to Mombasa? These are the discussions we seem to expect a lot more. Ni sarakasi, Joyce, what do you think of this?
No, I don't see any big deal in him using the commercial method for him to go to Mombasa. But the picture itself, look at him holding a blue suitcase. It's like he does not have his PA. You know, Fred, when you're walking towards the street of Nairobi, and your office has the personnel to handle some of these issues, why are you embarrassing us? Because in essence, the son from Madeira here is trying to embarrass this country by him carrying his own luggage. Look at him seated at the economic class, you know.
And you can tell his security team is there.
And you can tell his security team is there. So in essence, we're having drama after drama after drama in Kenya Kwanza leadership because some of this is embarrassing literally. I want to echo what my sister had just said. When you want to set up this team to address now some of these funny issues, there will be cost implication. Will these teams be anchored in law? Are they constitutional teams that are supposed to address even some of these small dramas? When we had the Akorino movement on Sunday, again, the deputy president came an hour late, brought in a lot of rubberoo of being delayed within 2 hours. Between Nairobi and Nakuru, you do not need 2 hours to fly. Even by road, you can't use 2 hours. Why are you having a lot of these shenanigans on the Kenya Kwanza government? Is it that we do not have priorities to address?
Okay, and the fact that this is what we're talking about during the week when we should be discussing the budget. This is too much drama, Bana.
To be honest, for me, I think I want to echo what Pamela and my friend Mutambu said. We are wasting our time discussing trivialities, things that do not actually impact on me today as a Kenyan, especially from a leadership point of view. So what if Rigathi Gachagua is carrying his own suitcase? What is of national interest about that? You know, I mean, we know presidents elsewhere who even cycle to office. You know, presidents who even walk. You know, I think the problem in Kenya, to be honest with you, we are getting our priorities wrong. And for me, Fred, I will still come back to you people in the media because you have a platform, you have a constituency. In fact, you probably have the biggest constituency than even most of these elected politicians. I think use your constituency, use your opportunity very properly to educate Kenyans. That some of these things we are discussing here is a waste of time.
It shouldn't be on the front pages.
Yeah, especially on the front, because we are creating an impression. It's like there's a crisis. And we are not even asking ourselves, so what happened between President Uhuru and the current president? So what did they lie to Kenyans for the last 10 years? Because they were then pretending they came together. For me, maybe now we should go back and say, okay, I think these people conned us. You know, they came together because of the ICC having been, you know, this political prostituting is actually a big problem in this country. And it's about them, not about the country. That's why they can treat us to all these shenanigans and forget and drama and forget all the other very important things to Kenyans. Like today, I hope we will have time to even...
I want us to move from that drama and just Still on the same front page of the Star, they talk about counties, 400 billion shillings, Mount Kenya being the big winner. These are revelations, and they say it is a slap in the face of Gachagua, who is claiming Mount Kenya has been shortchanged.
By the way, can we deconstruct Mount Kenya? What is Mount Kenya about Kiambu? Even Murang'a. Because see, we are using this phrase Mount Kenya to talk actually about ethnic regionalism, because that's what it is. Yeah, I think if Mount Kenya actually should be placed closer to Tharaka Nithi and Meru, and probably Laikipia County.
Okay.
Nyeri, Kirinyaga are so distant from Mount Kenya. So this,
and even Nyandarua.
Even Nyandarua, this notion of Mount Kenya is actually, we are talking about ethnicization of this country and the leadership of the country. It must stop. And for me, what is embarrassing even the most, and for me, I think this is now a very important debate. Why should the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya be the one championing about regionalization? About a certain ethnic grouping, you know, having a stake in a government as opposed to others, instead of talking about unity. And we see it across. Even the president, sometimes he makes some of his bold statements when he's in his neighborhood, Rift Valley. As a matter of fact, let's go further and say we should ban the use of vernacular by certain leaders.
All right.
For example, why would a president, because we look at a president, a deputy president, when he speaks as our national leader, why does he choose to speak in Kalenjin or in Kikuyu? Yet for me, that is my deputy president. But when he's addressing, say, a national event, anywhere the president today goes or the deputy president goes, even a cabinet secretary, you know, those are national leaders. And therefore we expect them to be speaking to all Kenyans. And that's why the Constitution of Kenya said our national and official languages are Kiswahili and English.
Okay.
Speak your vernacular in your bedroom.
But
not when you are addressing national issues.
We appear to have missed the whole conversation altogether, probably lost in this debate of regionalism and ethnicity. But the way this debate started was about resource allocation. Bwana Mutambo, I'd like you to chime in on this one. When it comes to this debate of resource allocation and which formula we should use, that's how the debate started. 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, 1 man, 1 vote, 1 kilometer, 1 shilling. And one wonders, have we missed that debate? Because it is an essential debate to have, and now we've gone and degenerated to talking about regionalism and ethnicity.
We're dividing the country more.
Bwana Mutambo.
You know, Edie, what is happening in our country today shows us that we elected wrong leaders, and I have no apology to make. When a deputy president starts this debate, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? It shows that the leaders we elected, they have no feelings for a country called Kenya. But they feel for themselves, number one. Number two, they are relatives. Number three, they are neighbors. They are neighbors in their village, not neighbors in either county or the tribe, so to speak it. That's where we are, and it is quite unfortunate because it makes no sense at all. A voice of the president, a voice of the vice president, a voice of a minister is a voice of a country. But when now they trivialize the issues to where they come from, and that is what I call is addressing. When you stand to speak as a minister, when you stand to speak as a vice president or deputy president, and you use your language, what are you telling other Kenyans?
Who don't speak
that
your language.
I was elected as a Kikuyu, and I will preach Kikuyu, and I will treat Kikuyus, and my interest is nothing apart from Kikuyus. So that's what we have seen today in our country. And that's why I'm saying, if Kenyans, and I don't know whether I'm boring people when I say this, if Kenyans could wake up one day and say enough is enough, we can get rid of this.
But the question is, Bwana Mutambo, the question is it possible for us to have a rational conversation about resource allocation in Kenya without it getting tribal?
When you say us, who? You know, the people who have voice, who have platform to speak, those are the people who can articulate issues. But when you have no platform, my shushu who is at home and she has no platform to speak about what is happening in this country, we cannot. And unfortunately, the people who have the platform are addressing wrong issues, including, and allow me, and I will say this a lot of respect to media, including media is feeding Kenyans with the wrong menu. Because when you wake up today and you start putting a headline of a former president's salary, yet we know there's a bill which is going to overtax Kenyan, and we are not addressing that. Then we are getting our priorities wrong all over the place, from the media, from the people who have the platform to speak, from those who are making a decision, from those who are making laws. We are getting it wrong. Unless we come and sit down and say, this is the forum to debate these issues. Let the Kenyans debate their own issues. But the moment we leave them in the hands of Gachagua, Ruto, and the rest, trust you me, this is
every time we start having these conversations, it quickly degenerates into a tribal debate. And I want Pamela Odhiambo to come in on this. Pamela, is it possible for us as Kenyans to have a rational debate on how to divide the national cake without us going back to the regions that we come from?
Thank you very much once more, Fred. Yes, according to me, I think it is possible. Why? Because if you look at the structure of leadership, or how we get their leaders and what their roles are supposed to be, then you will agree with me that in every county, we have smaller sections called wards. And these wards, we have elected representatives called MCAs. So if Ward A has got an issue that needs to be particularly addressed concerning that ward, then the people there have elected somebody called an MCA who is supposed to actually be very local and talk about that ward and say what it is that is affecting the people or what they wish to have. If a region called a constituency has a specific issue that is affecting them, then there is an MP who is actually on the political forum, shout it out and say, hey, there is this that is happening just in my constituency and it is a concern to my people, we need it addressed. Likewise, if there is something happening within a particular county, then there is an overall representative there who is also the executive that actually there are 2 or 3. There is the women rep for a specific county, there is the senator from a specific county, there is the governor of that specific county. But now when we reach the country that we call Kenya, then we know we have only 2 representatives who are representing the constituency called Kenya, and this is our president and the deputy president. And that's why it is a bit disturbing, actually, when these 2, any of them start addressing on a very passionate point regional issues. So I just wanted to remind our leadership that we feel sad, we feel very saddened when especially the office of the president starts going regional. So in humility, may our president and the deputy know that the constituency called Kenya is looking unto them for that overall representation. So even if the deputy or our president like now comes from Rift Valley, it should be a point of interest for him to wake up and say, hey, something is happening in Namanga which is affecting my people and we need to address it. So the case of resource allocation, it is a matter of what I had one of our colleagues say earlier. What are our development priorities in which part of the country? When we go to the south, what do we require to do there so that the people who are living there are comfortable? When we come to the mountain region, when we go to the lake region, whatever region people want to call these parts of our country, is it possible that we can address the priority in terms of development and the needs of these people. Because when we talk about resource allocation, I said yes, we can objectively discuss it because these resources are meant to do things that are to help and make people's lives better.
Thank you, Pamela, for that.
And so,
Fred, can I add something
when such
quickly?
debates like 1 man, 1 shilling, and all those things, we can address it to simply saying, how many people do we have in Kiambu who need to be treated?
Yes.
So
it is a conversation we need to have, Pamela. Yes.
So I believe it can be objective,
Yes.
and we should stop triviality.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Pamela has actually summarized this. Issue about allocation or how we develop Kenya is already settled in the Constitution. That's why we came up with the idea of an equalization fund. An equalization fund does not mean you give equal money to every. You have to look at the historical disadvantages of those people in terms of infrastructure, road, and all that. And you bring Kenya together. And that was the whole notion. And that's why counties like, say, Turkana, where I come from, are the second highest recipient of national revenue, second to Nairobi. Because we realize historically they've been marginal and all that. That debate is settled. I think the fundamental question we are dealing with, Fred, here is, honestly, we're dealing with a lackluster, feckless leadership. Kenya's leadership is in a vacuum. Because a leadership of our country should not be talking about this. But having said that, this is also an opportunity for Kenyans to have a reflection and say, okay, who did we actually elect? You know, I'll tell you a story. One of the questions I've never been able to answer in all the countries and forums I've had to go and speak about the Constitution of Kenya, because people say to Kenyans, we like the way you guys did your Constitution. I'm not saying it's a perfect Constitution because I was involved in it. But there are certain things about our Constitution that people actually admire. One, the time within which we concluded it in the last time. And then, for example, the Constitution of Kenya Review Act, the timelines we gave ourselves, there was a degree of seriousness that people said, I think Kenyans said, we were handing this conversation around the Constitution anymore, complete this work within a certain time. Then some of our proposals, for example, one of the lauded chapter in our Constitution is the chapter 6, leadership and integrity. And people ask, but this is one of the geniuses of Kenya's Constitution, that Kenyans actually said, we want a certain type and character of leaders who will actually, when they implement this Constitution, which is developmental.
Why are we too idealistic?
No, we are not. We are not idealistic because we went to the people. And remember, even chapter 6.
Failed spectacularly in implementing that chapter.
True.
No, but you see, the spirit and the will of the people was that we have been failed by leaders in the past, just like they are failing us even right now by discussing about parks and not discussing about how overtaxation is actually affecting their lives. So we are discussing trivialities like a deputy president carrying his bag. This is a factor of who did we actually elect? So I see an opportunity in Kenyans to say, I think we made a mistake. Let's go back to the drawing board now and say, okay, who should we elect? Maybe it's an opportunity for Joyce, Pamela, my friend Mutambo and myself, and even you, Fred. You know, when I offered myself to run for president in 2017, you know, one of the things that I had which was baffled me is like, you're from a small tribe called the Turkana. How many votes can you mobilize? Do you have money? But people did not want to see, okay, what proposals did we put on the table as a third way alliance Kenya? So for me, we are dealing with a really unreasonable debate here, and I think I agree with Mutambo. I think the fourth estate can actually lead this country to change its mindset, to now refocus on bigger questions that affect this country. Every of the counties here, Fred, and I'm privileged to have traveled a lot in almost all the counties of Kenya doing constitution making. There is an economic opportunity we can industrialize to produce and to enhance the economic development of this country and its people. And when we go to this route of regionalism, tell me any county where it's purely people from that particular region. We have got tribes of Kenya living everywhere. And I always joke with my Mudhoniwas, my Shemejis. I tell them, you guys, Kikuyus, you are like the Jewish of Kenya, actually, in terms of businesses. You should be able to embrace the idea that, let's equalize Kenya, because then it gives you an economic opportunity. Because, like now, if you go to Lokichar, where we come from, after the oil, businesses have flourished. It's not from the Turkana and the rest. And people from if we start talking about that, yes, we will reach a stage where we are saying kila mtu arudi kwao. But now, if kila mtu arudi kwao means
But we cannot ignore that debate. One man, one vote, one shilling. It is a debate that's rife.
But
it started way before.
Also had 1 kilometer.
Yes.
Because now that's what us guys from the north will say.
And exactly. Yes. Is it time for us to have that conversation? And do you think, Joyce, that probably this conversation has been messed up by the involvement of the Deputy President? That probably the conversation was a bit rational, but the moment he chimed in on it, that was the end.
I think all formulas in terms of resource allocation are varied. Whether it's one man, one sharing, 1 kilometer, one man, one sharing, one vote, all these formulas are right. What do we need? We literally need to get that money to the grassroots, irrespective of the formula that you are going to use. It is not about the individual behind this discussion. Some of these people are known of trying to steal the show. It is about Wajiko getting that money. How does Wajiko get that money? This week, the students in the public schools have been sent home for school fees. Have Wajiko received the capitation funds? Yes or no? When was the last time that capitation funds were released to the schools? That was late last year. Why is Ezekiel Mashogu releasing capitation funds 1 week to schools when they are closing? What is the objective? So whichever formula that you are going to use, what is the objective of the message? The objective of this message is to have money, to have the resources, to have everyone that translates to economy getting to the grassroots. When you have 400 billion translating to the Mount Kenya area, I love what my brother has said. The members from Mount Kenya are not geographically located within Mount Kenya. They have spread. He had just said in Lokichal, when you go to Rodwa, there's a soda distributor shop in Rodwa town, run by a gentleman from Kiabu. That is in Rodwa. We need to have these resources back now to Rodwa. Let us not even use the word of the Mount Kenya. How do the members from Rodwa benefit from these funds? Provide infrastructure, provide services that are conducive for members from Rodwa to produce. When you bring in a lot of taxation issues, who said that when you tax Kenyans, you're going to make money? Kenyans will resort to what we call the black market. Today, if Okota thinks that getting his gate will be expensive and KRA are going to nail him. What have Kenyans resorted? They are discussing now between Fred and Joyce. Kaide get for me a gate. I'll pay you cash or not even use the M-Pesa.
Actually, a lot of people are now preferring cash.
A lot of people today are doing the black market business. KRA, you are zeroing in on the M-Pesa statement. Kenyans have now stopped using the M-Pesa statement. It is the high time that we resend to Wajiko. Go back to Wajiko. The issue of the one man, one vote, 1 kilometer. One man, one vote, one sharing, one vote. It's all about Wajiko. It's not about Kakamega. It's not about Mount Kenya. It's not about Turkana. It is all about Wajiko. Okay. Wajiko, what do you want? I want this week. Ezekiel Mashogu, you've been holding capitation funds for school for a whole year. Why do you want to subject Wajiko's kids to a lot of nightmare? Okay. It is only last week that we had the vaccines that had been missing from a hospital for about 8 months. Why were you, Susan, holding on funds so that you can relieve the kids of this country? You can relieve Wajiko's kids.
That was entirely
vulnerable.
Yes, okay. And it is indeed a debate that will continue, matters resource allocation. It may have digressed into regionalism and ethnicity, but will continue. But I want us now to focus on the budget-making process because that is a big story and big happening this week. But my attention has been drawn to the front page of the Business Daily. Talks about the Transport CS, Kipchumba Murkomen, revealing a plan to increase the fuel levy by 39%. It is currently at 18 shillings a litre. They propose to increase it to 25 shillings a litre. This is coming at a time when motorists expecting that motor vehicle tax to be approved by Parliament. And the debate has always been, why have it that way, yet the fuel levy is there? Bwana Mutambu, you've been a parliamentarian and you're involved in this budget-making process. this would appear to be part of the problem that parliamentarians are not scrutinizing. The questions and the kind of public participation that we've seen. Many people and many Kenyans have pointed out these issues, but Parliament appears to be blind to some of this. What is your assessment about Parliament's scrutiny of the finance bill?
It's again very unfortunate because we have leaders or members of Parliament who care about their electorate. The answer is no. And I can tell you, I've been a member of Parliament, and I know how the debate goes in Parliament and how decisions.
We lost it.
I think we may have lost Bwana Mutambu, the link. Yes, but okay, let's probably talk to Pamela about this. You've also been a member of Parliament, and when it comes to this could be, many people would say this amounts to double taxation for motorists. Okay, fine. Let's come back to studio here. And Bwana Aukot, this is double taxation.
Yeah.
This is what people have already said. According to an InfoTrack poll, Kenyans are actually have a very good comprehension of what is happening. They can see and point out issues of double taxation.
Yes.
This is glaring. Yet parliamentarians appear to be blinded and will not attend to this.
So if I may just, I think I somehow got the impression of where my friend Joe Mutambu was going. Yeah? I think, Fred, we don't have a parliament as we speak. Actually, go talk to Kenyans out there on the street. They will tell you we don't have parliament, meaning we don't have representation. In fact, they will tell you that today's parliament is actually an appendage of the executive, who is obsessed with controlling the legislative process, the policy-making process, and the oversight. That's why you do not see oversighting at all. The budgeting-making process, actually, the members of parliament ought to be able to contextualize the budgeting-making process and say, okay, I come from constituency X. How will this budgeting or this tax actually affect my people? And it's supposed to represent. The three cardinal duties of an MP is representation, legislation, and oversight. And it's on behalf of a constituency. That is not happening today as we speak. Number two, we do not have parliamentarians actually who can be able to look the executive in the eye and say, by the way, looking at the histories, the fiscal policies of any country in the world, there is no time a country will prosper through taxation. Actually, especially over taxation. I'm not an expert on matters tax, neither am I an economist, but I know these are basic tenets, that overtaxing a country and a people actually will not develop that country to prosperity. There are many very good examples we can use. I remember when the Iron Lady of the UK, Margaret Thatcher, came in power, that time when there was a bit of an economic meltdown. She actually brought taxes down, and then it encouraged people to even pay taxes. Just like Joyce was saying. People now will resort to, okay, will I be able to survive if I continue to pay these taxes? And that's why in law, you know, tax avoidance actually is not criminal.
No.
But evasion is. So people will try to avoid paying these taxes so that then they are able to live a more decent, decent life. And this is what is missing in the whole conversation when we are talking about budgeting. For example, actually, you know, Fred, I have very mixed feelings about this Finance Bill 2024. Of course, I don't like the bill generally. Just like I never liked the 2023 Finance Act. Because now we should be taking stock and saying, okay, from 2023 Finance Act, for example, the housing levy, can we at least have an accountability on that money? How many Kenyans so far have actually benefited from those affordable houses? Where is that money? How is it being invested? We had that money had been diverted to another, I think, Eurobond, if I'm not wrong.
They said they've invested in treasury bonds.
In treasury bond. Now, we need accountability of that money that you collected from Kenyans. Okay? Auditor General report files a report annually that really paints a very black image of the manner in which our taxes are being spent. I hope that, and I know we cannot finish this debate today, Fred, we need to be able now to link the Finance Act 2023 and the Finance Bill 2024 and some of those proposals. And what are the impact on Kenya's economy? Because without production, without industrialization, where do people get taxes if the economy is dilapidated? Government itself has said it. we inherited empty coffers. You know, the economy was in tatters. There's too much of a borrowing. But then you come and say to people, you know, as dilapidated the economy as it is, I want to tax you. Now I'm even coming for your expenditure at home. I think there was that proposal that we want to know, Fred, how much do you spend monthly in your shopping? And we want to come after that. Now we want to come for your motor vehicle. Maybe you have owned it for 10 years or it's on mortgage. Now you have paid 5% on it. And that's what I'm saying. I've got mixed reactions on this bill. On the one hand, I don't want it. But on the other hand, I'm saying, if this is what can make Kenyans angry at government, let it go through.
We see our elasticity when it comes to anger.
Because if it is the only thing that can cause a revolution, that will tell us we made a mistake in electing a government that campaigned on the idea of uplifting the man down there in the village. Now they're even criminalizing being a villager, because that's part of the talk.
Very interesting conversation. But the question is, because this time around, people have really ventilated on this finance bill. You can see the comprehension levels have really gone high. And yes, public participation has taken place. Organizations and institutions that may not necessarily be regarded as partisan have come out and said this won't work. We've seen the Kenya Bankers Association, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. They've all said no, this will have a negative impact. But talking to a number of MPs, they don't seem to feel that that is their duty to remedy any of these issues. They're waiting on party directions. That in itself is failure on representation, don't you?
True. Before I go to that, my brother here has just alluded on some issues on the taxes. I think the Kenya Kwanza government has found another pocket of where to correct a lot of taxes. Look at the motor vehicle tax on 2.5, the proposed motor vehicle tax of 2.5%. The same motorist is being charged eco-levy on the batteries, because we cannot run these vehicles without the batteries. So there will be the eco-levy tax on the battery, the chloride battery that you're driving on. Then Mulkomen comes up with the 39% on fuel levy. Last year, 2023, they brought in the insurance tax of 16% against that vehicle. We have about 6 million vehicles on the road, and we have about 2 million motorists. So Kimani must have sat down and decided to zero in Fred and Joyce and Ukot and others, so that you can pay a lot of tax. What is taxation if it's not involving? Have the National Assembly been doing civic education to the Kenyans so that they can embrace the taxes? They've not. You can do civic education. Civic education is a continuous process. But public participation is only a timed process that is supposed to capture that process. Have the national leadership been engaging the Kenyans in terms of civic education? The answer is a no. Why? Because they do not want Wajiko to run. So in essence, what Wajiko today have done, 2024, Wajiko have now gone back to the books and read. Now, Wajiko is better versed more with the Constitution, with the Finance Bill 2024, than the MP. Why? This week after the Akorino meeting in Nakuru, the government, they asked the cabinet to go out there and harass any Kenyan, and harass literally any Kenyan who is not supporting the bill. Look at what happened in Laikipia when the majority leader went to Laikipia. He was telling the deputy president on the face, you're in charge of IBEC. You're in charge of CRA. Wacha kutuletea hii maneno hapa, rudi pale kwa cabinet. Mulkomen went to Nyeri and told the great man from the county leadership there that, Bwana Kahiga, I'm embarrassed with you. For those people who watched it last night, the Moses Kuria in a certain TV station, he was all moody and emotive. Why is the leadership of Kenya Kwanza fighting Wajiko? Instead of sitting down with Wajiko, teach Wajiko the essence of paying taxes. Kenyans want to pay taxes.
Okay.
But they have an issue with the value, the usage of the taxes that you're using.
Okay, and the question now is on this Kenyans, on their representation, because you've mentioned the Kenya Kwanza leadership.
Yes.
Parliament is supposed to be a vital link in this debate, and allow me to bring in Bwana Mutambu. Bwana Mutambu, on this debate and Parliament's involvement in the budget-making process, many parliamentarians appear to have ceded a lot of ground, and it would appear that they are more or less helpless when it comes to the budget-making process. That's not what we envisioned, even in the Constitution.
The truth of the matter is that members of Parliament, they have all the powers. All the powers. They have been given their powers. But unfortunately, they don't use those powers. They do what, and I repeat, they do what their party bosses have told them to do. And that's the unfortunate thing, that we have members of Parliament who don't think for themselves, who don't act for themselves, who don't do things according to their conscience. They use other people. And that's where we are getting it wrong. The day Kenyans will wake up and elect leaders who can represent them well, without necessarily listening to their party leaders, then this country will be moving to the right direction. Right now, if the members of Parliament want to shoot that bill down, they will. But most of them, they are afraid that if I vote this way, my party leader will do this, or he will not give me, I don't know, this or that. That's the problem we are having in our Parliament today. And I'm speaking as a former member of Parliament. I was once coerced to vote in a certain direction, and I refused. I said, no, my conscience does not allow me, because this is not right for Kenya. And I did what I did. Going against my party leader and doing what I think is good for Kenya. So at the end of the day, I ended up suffering myself. And that is the most thing which members of Parliament fear, being victimized for standing with the truth. They don't stand with any truth. They don't stand with what is right. They stand with what is right to their bosses. And I repeat, and I keep on repeating. So powers they have by the Constitution, they are the ones who are supposed to debate anything in Parliament, and either if it is not good for Kenyans, they drop it or they bring it down. But they don't do that.
Okay.
They do what their bosses have told them.
Pamela, is that do you share in those sentiments that Parliament appears to have ceded too much ground and they are not offering quality debate, even in as far, not necessarily shooting down the bill, but even proposing proper amendments to some of these tax proposals?
Thank you very much, Fred. For quite some time, I lost you people. And I thought left out the go, but thank you for bringing me back. Yes, some of the sentiments that my colleague is expressing here are true. It is important that Kenyans know that the process of dealing with these bills, once the proposal comes from the CS Treasury, there is a need for every departmental committee to sit down and look at what has been proposed. And it is at that point if the members of that committee sat down and read and compared and reasoned and looked at the impact of what is being proposed, then they should be able to help Kenyans. But unfortunately, two major things happen. It is unfortunate that we are running on party politics, which my colleague has really belabored to express. And the challenge with the party politics is that most of the time we have ended up with people who are picked or handpicked to represent those parties, and they would not use their conscience, they would not use their intellect, they would not use their ability to scrutinize and analyze anything and come up with an independent solution. It's a very pitiful thing to think about in Kenya. This is always occasioned and has always been demonstrated by, you remember the there was something that came up some time back in this country, and somebody was talking about the numbers, you know, the tyranny of numbers. So sometimes even before these MPs are able to sit down and reason, everything is looked at politically. Like, if we said this, then we will be opposing our boss, opposing our government. So objectivity is almost thrown at the window, through the window at that point. And number two, these documents, like these bills, the truth is they are very, very voluminous and have a lot of writings that sometimes, if the MP in question would not take their time to burn the midnight oil to read through, I think that's where most of MPs of Parliament are failing, because everyone is running around trying to defend their job in the counties and the funerals, in the churches and everywhere, and there is no real time to sit down and read.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you look at some of the few MPs that have always consistently read and come to the floor when they know what they have read from these proposed bills, and here I may mention former colleagues like Otiende Amolo, the colleagues like Dr. Nikal and others, you'd find them coming to the floor with something to tell Kenyans and what to say about the part of the discussion that needs a decision to be made.
Okay.
And this is why I want to urge Kenyans that when it comes to the point of electing your representatives, please elect people whom you think and you have proven that can represent you and your ideas, because the so-called public participation that has been going on has revealed a lot, something that was previously almost missing from the Kenyan population. My sister here called them Wanjikos. Allow me to call them Atienos and Awuors. They have taken it for themselves
What should I call
to
them?
read and come and represent themselves during this public participation. But unfortunately, again, even as these members listen for these people to bring their issues, hardly do they take them into consideration.
Exactly.
And even right now, I think Kenya is watching, because during that public participation, I think some very genuine concerns and points and suggested solutions have been made, and final decision needs to take this into consideration.
Okay.
As one has said, Kenyans really are not refusing that we should not be taxed. But now look, we are struggling to rebuild our economy. But by bringing up the fuel levy again, all we are saying is that people cannot even go to Sokomjinga to bring the vegetable and even sell and get anything else to be taxed. We are going to close down quite a lot of the businesses. I am privileged to be talking with you from the village. And believe me, I've been here since 16th of last month. Let me tell you, even the small shopkeepers and these Aswekra people here, the very micro traders, we call them Aswekra. You know, these women who would go to the market with just a karai of omena to sell by the roadside. Many of them have been knocked off. They are no longer able to buy that omena and sell again. People have no money. Okay. In the villages here, people have no money, literally.
Okay.
And so if this is what is happening, when we add all these taxes like the fuel levy, then what will happen?
Okay.
What will happen?
Hold that thought.
And that's why I'm saying it is unfortunate that our MPs have found themselves in this very awkward corner where they don't seem to understand the document they are talking about, which they are just about to pass, and that implication on the common mwananchi, if you may allow me to use that term, though I don't like it.
Kindly allow us to take a short break. We'll come back to continue with this. We are a bit late for that break. Let's take a break. You're watching Morning Cafe. We'll be right back.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave, wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on
on TV 47 with me, Fred Indemuli. I'm still in studio with the Uhuru'S Court and Joyce Omahio, Joe Mutambo and Pamela Odhiambo joining us via video link. Just before the break, the two former legislators had talked about their involvement in parliament.
And actually they have raised very, very fundamental issues that I hope Kenyans can actually reflect upon. For example, recently, I'm sure you had one of the most outspoken members of parliament publicly saying, I don't go to parliament to do what? My business is going to look for money. Meaning he does not even understand why he was elected to go to parliament. So his business to go and look for money and enrich himself. So it's a very sad state of affairs. And having said, there also the question of party politics plays a big role. But I want us to go beyond party politics, Fred, and say, the party leaders of those political parties, do they understand when they say they want to lead this country as party leaders? When, for example, you as a president or as a leader of opposition receives a bill, then you need to look at it from the context of Kenya. How is this bill, for example, these financial proposals affecting or uplifting the lives of Kenyans? You must have a mind of your own. And now we're even going further to say, does the president or the government have advisors who actually will look at everything in totality and say, we think this is a bad law. This law does not have the common good for Kenyans, and therefore let's revise it. The idea that our party leader said this, that speaks volumes. Because then it says the party leader, who now I think we should use the word unfortunately forms government, does not know what to do with the country. And that is the indictment right now on President William Ruto and his UDA, because his UDA members of parliament will not even suggest changes. And that's why one of my favorites right now, speaking, is Wamushomba. I mean, I like the outspokenness. She's speaking about issues about Wananchi openly, regardless of being a member of UDA. And I think that for me is true leadership. Whether she is absolutely right or not, but either is a leader that's coming and saying, no, I represent a constituency, and this constituency is bleeding because of this and that. Fred, we should now be talking about the quality of leaders we elect. If a leader is not able to read a bill, why did we send them to parliament? Why are we paying them so much money? There has to be something in return for us.
And the question now comes, is it a failure in our constitution, the fact that we see a failed parliament and we appear not to have a remedy for this kind of failure. Parliament that has refused totally to perform its role properly. And where do we get a remedy for that?
A constitution or any law can never be a failure. It's a failure of leadership. You can write yourself even the most beautiful constitution in the flowerest of languages, of words. But if you don't believe in it, and that's why constitutional lawyers will always tell you that there is the letter and there is the spirit of the constitution. For example, when we say national values and principles of governance, issues to do with accountability, okay? We are not prescriptive to say what exactly should that accountability be, but the spirit is there, that if you have given you money to build a bridge or a hospital for us, say in my village in Turkana, you must account for that money.
We ask this because of provisions in the law, like the provision on recalling a member of parliament. When you deem that he has totally failed in representing...
That is not in the constitution. Failing, Fred, you're talking about Article 104, and even Chapter 6, or even impeachment processes in the constitution. The letter is there, and so is the spirit. Now, it is a failure of leadership because when we passed Chapter 6, that said, this is the type of person we want to lead us, so that when they occupy that office, they do not demean it, they do not bring disrespect to it. Those are the words in Chapter 6. But is the parliamentarian said, no, we are not going to pass a law that will enable this chapter. They actually killed Chapter 6. Article 104 on recall clause is almost now impossible because it's the same. You know, it's equivalent to you locking your goat or sheep together with an hyena, and if one of your sheep or three of them are eaten the following morning when you open the pen, why should you be complaining? So we have hyenas masquerading as leaders, and they're actually eating the sheep who are Kenyans.
If this trend continues, we saw what happened last year with the finance debate. It's more or less going to happen this week. If it continues and happens for another 3 years, where Parliament totally does nothing to enrich or scrutinize the budget-making process properly, then we are in for very difficult times. That helplessness of the general population, that Parliament can fail us and we cannot do anything about it. That is the question I'm asking. Is it a failure or maybe a loophole in our constitution that we cannot remedy?
I think it's all about institutions that have been mandated to correct that wrong, purely conniving and agreeing to take a different route. Members of public we have seen it even at Meru. On 2 occasions they've tried to bring down the Meru leadership, but what happened? The views of one group was not heard and determined and literally dealt with. We've had institutions that do not want to articulate those issues as per the spirit and the law. Wakiri has just said it that it's entrenched in law. When it comes to articulation and implementing the same, who are the persons who are dealing with it? If today Kenyans felt that enough is enough with President Ruto the 5th, who have the mandate to deal with it? It is the members of the 13th Assembly. Whom do you think in the 13th Assembly will take up the bell and go and rock the cat? We do not have anybody. Look at what is happening today with the majority leader. The majority leader have connived with the leadership of, with the speaker, Moses Wetangula, that for any voting that need to be made, particularly with the Finance Bill 2024, it must be in public, because Ishongo want to literally know who brought the bill down, so that at your pigeon boxes you have the messages and the SMSs telling you that you are letting the party down. Waheshimios here have just told us that there's a lot of intimidation. The free will for the members of Parliament to make independent decisions have been compromised. Why? I do not want to mention names. Some of them even do not have papers to be in that house for that purpose. So you are literally at the masses of somebody else. So when that somebody else tells you to jump, Fred, what do you have to do? You only have to jump. We have leadership. The 13th Parliament is the most embarrassing Parliament.
Is it something we can remedy? The fact that this is a very crucial arm of government.
Corporate bodies, Fred, corporate bodies this week and last week came out in large numbers. Even as yesterday when we were closing down the public participation bill and told the members of National Assembly, if you implement the Finance Bill 2024, we'll be having a lot of massive job cuts. Do you think to the rights of Kimani Kuria, that means much? We have people in that parliament who lost conscience and they have no business whatsoever with Wajiko.
Okay. Bwana Mutambu, the 13th Parliament has been criticized for so many different things, including its own leadership. Another example that Bwana Okot gave about a member who publicly declared that he does not even attend Parliament and he doesn't have to.
And he should have been removed by now.
And no one is taking any action. We are sitting back and watching a crucial arm of government failing continuously. Yet we pride ourselves of having the most progressive constitution. Do you think failure to have a proper remedy for such failure is also a big problem for us?
Yes, it is a big problem. I totally agree with the court that it is not about the law. The constitution is very clear, and explicit, by the way. So it's not about the law, it's not about the constitution, it's about the leadership. It's about the leadership. And because the leadership we have brings cocoons of members of parliament in one corner and lectures them on what to do, they have no powers at all. They are not men of themselves or women of themselves. They are people under custody of one man who controls them left, right, center, and they cannot do nothing. Nobody will stand and say, this is not right for my mother. This is not right for my brother. This is not right for my fellow Kenyans. No one will ever come out and speak for themselves. What they are left with is what Okot said, is praying for this bill to pass, so that Kenyan can feel the pinch of wrong leadership. Then they will stand up. I can guarantee you, if this bill goes through and Kenyans feel it, revolution is imminent. It's on the corner. And what we need is fearless people. Hashtag Okot, no fear. Let's liberate our country. This is my take. No fear.
It is such proposals that worry me that the only solution is probably a revolution, that kind of route. We have a very progressive constitution. The fact that in it we lack a remedy for the problem we face right now. Pamela, don't you think that that was an oversight even on the part of those who created or drafted this constitution?
I don't seem to agree with you, Fred, that there is no remedy. In the Constitution, I think, including the president, if the highest office in the land, if the people of Kenya think that the president is not acting constitutionally and no longer does what Kenyans expected them to do through the Constitution, they are supposed to be impeached. If MPs are not doing their work, they are supposed to be recalled. I think there's a provision for it.
But Bwana Okot admits that that is almost impossible to do. The recall clause.
No, I really don't think it is that impossible. What is there, according to me, is one, many people, the so-called represented constituents, don't seem to know that they have the power actually to do away with the MP. And at some stage again, if the people decided to do away with somebody, sometimes we have seen the parties rally themselves behind them and protect them. That patronage is very strong in Kenyan politics and leadership. And cases of even those who do not occupy political offices, there are institutions like the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Authority that are supposed to bring corrupt leaders, whether they are CSS or whoever, which office they occupy, to book and have them arrested and have them prosecuted. We have, I think the institutions, I don't know, I may not be able to understand very well what Brother Okot was trying to say, but I think there are institutions in this country that are supposed to deal with wrongdoing. And so, to the case of our parliament, it is a pity that there is a cry that the people are feeling our elected leaders are not representing them and defending them when they ought to. Because if at all they were very sure that that is the right way to go, then as Joyce had mentioned earlier, they should be the first people at the forefront to come back to their constituents and explain to them, by way of civic education, detailed explanation of how is this important, why must we do this? And that has not happened. They are just fighting verbally up there, or majority of them are just telling Kenyans, oh, this bill will pass without removal of a comma, a colon, or a full stop, you know. And that's all they are saying. And it means either every one of us or of them as MPs are only struggling to defend their positions.
Okay.
And forget about how that defense is going to affect the very people that they claim also to have elected them.
Okay.
Now, what is there, according to me, and I want to also join my colleagues in coming to you, the media or the fourth estate members of this nation. There are very, very fundamental things that you people can also help us educate the masses about, and what especially their rights are. We know all of us have rights, but like Joe has said, it is very painful we might have to wait.
Yes.
This thing is unbearable to anyone. And you know, the challenge here is that until in Kenya, sometimes our behavior of complacence, until everybody will be feeling the heat, then it may not be possible even to say, let us.
You all seem to be saying that the pain will be necessary. And as Okot, even as you make your final remarks.
Yes.
Thank you, Pamela. Someone has asked you to comment, or one of our viewers to comment on the issue of public participation and what happens going forward, because now, yes, it is provided for in the Constitution, but it has become basically a formality.
Yeah. So there are already decisions actually up to the Supreme Court that says that public participation is just a mere decoration. It must be meaningful, meaning people really must participate proactively. You chew it down to them, for example, like Pamela has said. Members of Parliament today really, why do they keep a constituency office? What does the meaning of that office? They should be able now to go to their constituencies and say, after all, we are paying them allowances to go to their constituencies. When they go to their constituencies, what do they go to do? Their business is not to attend funerals. They are not morgue attendants, like many of them have reduced themselves into. They are supposed to go there and say, okay, there is a national issue happening. There is a finance bill being proposed, and this is the proposals, that they are coming after your car, a fuel levy, this and that. What are your views? Then you go back to the floor of the House as a representative and say, you know, coming from constituency X, these are the feelings of my people. Therefore, this bill is bad. That is not happening. And because we are missing the idea of meaningful public participation, as the Supreme Court of this country has declared. And see what that means also. And Fred, when I read something like Treasury tax dilemma as IMF comes calling, praising it. The sad thing, and we may not want to say it boldly, but some of us will say it, the number one enemy of this country today is the presidency. That is the number one enemy, because it's clear that the presidency of this country has mortgaged Kenya. Wow. And that's why you will hear that IMF, World Bank, this and that. I mean, in fact, it's like the presidency of this country is actually not in charge of Kenya anymore.
Wow.
You know? I mean, in the Muli, I will tell you this because some of us, we have conversation out there with people. And people are saying, you know, who did we elect actually? There is nowhere in the history of this country, give me any country, and I challenge even economists, and we have Joyce here. There is nowhere that IMF, World Bank has sat in a country praises its success and that country prospers.
True.
Never.
No.
Okay.
You know, so the moment we allow these globalists, these agents of the new world order, to come into dictate to us how we run our affairs, it actually means our own leadership does not even know what they are doing. Okay. Our own leadership actually lied to the people during campaign time to say, I'll do this, I'll do that for you. That's why today you don't hear the narrative around wheelbarrow, Asla, Mamamboga. Those things have been forgotten because now you have installed us, or our agents have actually ensured that we are in office. Now we are bidding for them. Okay. That's exactly what's happening.
Parting shot?
I have two issues. One, BAMBA is not talking now, but we have a good riding spot. The Royal Society of Kenya have opened up its offices that if you feel the Finance Bill 2024 will aggrieve you on any part, kindly visit the offices of the Royal Society of Kenya, and they'll assist you to litigate on that issue. Two, Article 212 and 213 of our Constitution, in terms of the county borrowing, the counties that we have, the county borrowing, and the national government borrowing. It is the high time that Kenyans now sought orders to have those contracts from those persons who have been borrowed, because we could be entering into very grave issues that you want to borrow. Counties are known to operate more than, say, 100 bank accounts, but where are the monies coming from? They are borrowing that money. What is the purpose for that money? Okay. It is the high time that Kenyans out there take in cognizance Article 112 and Article 1123. I wish all Kenyans happy day today.
Thank you so much,
But
Joyce.
you asked me to comment on the question of Haiti.
I'll give you 1 minute after this. Bwana Mutambu, about 30 seconds for your parting shot only.
I think we've been talking about law, about our constitution, and our constitution is very clear. Article 1, and I'm happy I have a lawyer in the house. Article 1 of our constitution, it states very clearly that Kenyans, they can have their leaders represent them on matters, or actually leaders, the elected leaders may, which is optional. Kenyans can take action for moving the president. You don't need to wait for the parliament to do so.
Okay.
Kenyans can go to the street and remove the current government.
Okay.
And they can do it. And I can assure you, it will happen when this bill passes through.
Asante sana.
Hashtag no fear is coming. Revolution is coming. And that's what I'm talking about.
Thank you,
Bwana Mutambu. Yes, I know.
Did you give me my chance for the parting shot in the morning?
I'm coming to you, Pamela.
Hashtag no
You may not want to advocate this, but I want to remind you, Tunisia was brought down by WhatsApp.
I didn't get what.
Okay, thank you, Bwana Mutambu.
North Sudan was brought up by increasing the price of bread.
Bwana Mutambu, asante sana. I think your point is made. Thank you so much. Pamela, a quick 30 seconds for your final comments. Parting shot, please.
I want to urge fellow colleague leaders in Parliament, please do the right thing. Please wake up your conscience. Please be the representative of the people of Kenya that you ought to be.
Okay.
And finally, allow me to also speak to Kenyans. The truth is, brace up yourselves for very tough times economically. And until we, all of us Kenyans, wake up to stand up for the truth, integrity, and stop even this fraudulent receiving of help from even our elected leaders and asking for handouts and all these things we are crying about will never stop.
Okay.
So please, Kenyans, wake up and brace up your belts and get ready for a very turbulent economic ride. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Bwana Okot, I don't know if you'll talk about this Haiti issue in 30 seconds. I
will try. It's very simple. The Constitution disallows the deployment of a national police service outside the jurisdiction of Kenya. Article 240 is very clear. You can only try to do that with the military, what they call the Kenya Defense Forces, but not the police. Okay. Now, the National Police Service Act gives the president some discretionary power that he may, but upon satisfying himself that the condition in a requesting country are similar to that of Kenya. And that requesting country, the request must come from a democratically elected president. Haiti has never had a democratically elected president since July 2021 when they killed Juvenal Moise. He had an imposter called Ariel Henry, who masqueraded as a prime minister for nearly 3 years. He came to Kenya and signed a bogus agreement. In law, he had no capacity to sign in such agreement. So, and up to now, the president has not satisfied the conditions in our law. In the hierarchy of laws, the constitution reigns supreme, statutes follow, regulation, rules, and the rest of the things. So the constitution is very clear. This deployment to Haiti is another another issue where I argue our president is actually selling our sovereignty.
Okay, and that story, you can read more on this on page 10 of the Standard, when our courts take.
And actually, we are going to court
You're going to court this morning.
Today here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ekuru Aukot, Party Leader, Third Way Alliance, and constitutional lawyer, Joyce Omahiu, economic and political analyst.